they get sent to the Chester Transportation Center. And in a lot of cases, they have no identification, they have no money, so they're vagrant and they're broke. The majority of them are addicts, so they go back to coping skills that they had when they entered prison. I don't see why there couldn't be a vehicle in place while they're in prison to gain at least identification for them.
Transition plan.
For them to have identification on them, because the prison is actually sending them out in the street vagrant.
Yes.
You know, if you don't have ID, you're considered vagrant. I don't, because I work at Crozier Chester Medical Center's crisis, the inpatient, a lot of times what they do is, if they don't go out and get high, or if they do go out and get high in a day or two, they need somewhere to go, they'll come to us. So they'll come to us and we'll take them in without ID, but to move them on to rehab, which in a lot of cases that's what they need. I can't get them county funding, they have no medical assistance without that ID. You need identification to move on in life, and I don't know why when they have them out there for 6 months or whatever, they do nothing all day, they're locked in cells most of the day. Why something couldn't be done to gain their identification for them? If they, you know, they gotta be able to hook up with a state agency to make that happen.
That should all be done.
Because
Exactly.
most of them have had an identification at some point if they're a Pennsylvania resident. And that's something I think we need to have them look at.
And that's something that I witnessed on Paul My release. If it wasn't for my aunt and Judith, I would have been back to the same routine right back in
They
there
have nothing.
within a couple
And
weeks.
they're at
And
the
it's,
they used to be at the Grand Island Mall, now they're at the Chester Transportation Center. You know, that's where they decide to ship them now.
Can I ask you a question? When they drop them off, did they give them tokens? Why are they dropping
Oh,
them off
yeah,
at
that's
SEPTA?
it.
Why are you dropping them off at SEPTA? And,
You
you know,
get two tokens.
No, one
Oh,
token, you
okay.
have 5 minutes to
One
leave
bus
the
and then
premises.
another bus.
And
then
if
after
you
that,
go
you're
in the
Or
summer
you're
in
arrested.
short shorts, locked up, and you get out in January, that's what you leave
You're
in.
given-
I knew a young lady that left there and went in there in Daisy Dukes, locked up, and she got out in January and they let her leave in those same.
They threaten to
Shorts.
rearrest you. If you're there for longer
You
than
have
5
to get
minutes,
on
you're
that
threatened
bus.
to be
Right,
rearrested.
you better
for-
get on that bus and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't wanna hear that you're cold, you're in
I
flip
watched
flops,
women cry.
sandals,
'cause
nothing.
know
They
nothing
are
about Chester.
horrible.
Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, Eric,
Hi, I'm Eric.
you're the star.
I'm a former inmate at Delaware County.
Okay, well, you
I
know.
witnessed things as far as your TV getting thrown off the tier, 72 hours being locked up, only come out for an hour, 3 men to a cell. You know, I'm here to see if we can get Delaware County changed. I mean, they don't treat you like a human being, they treat you like an animal. So that's what I'm here for. You know?
He was actually hesitant to even come because the men are scared. I mean, they're like clearly threatened, and they fear like consequences leading down to even probation because they're all connected.
Right.
And but he was like they kept food from him for over 3 days because he spoke, he disrespected a guard.
Yeah,
For 3 days.
Cups bounced off walls.
He had marks on his face from where they used his face to open the doors of the cell,
Mm.
and I saw it when I visited him.
Well, they had, they called cigarette smoking but couldn't find the smoke. Lock you in the shower, you won't admit to it, they'll take your TV, throw it off top tier. Then when you say something, they say it's jail, don't come to jail. So, you know, that's how Delaware County is. You know, it's not a fun place, I get that, we all did something to be there, but if you treat us like a human being, or even when you get out of jail, they would have something like a reentry program. That would help people, you know.
Right. Now, it's our understanding, the young man who's not here, I think Richard's on the phone, Gerald Bowling, who is what they call an alumni of CEC. They have actual former inmates that they bring on as staff members, and their role is to help facilitate the reentry process. We're talking about Gerald. Gerald on the way?
Yes, he just called me.
Okay, so Gerald is one of those individuals. Hopefully he'll be here shortly. But they don't have that set up at George W. Hill, even though it's a CEC facility. So that's part of the reason why there's this struggle with the reentry and the work that Richard and all of us have been collaborating on in terms of having some kind of resource that we're doing on the shoestring level. The county has turned down grants. They've turned down funding to fund these programs. They've looked at us for 3 years. They've sent people to our meetings. They know what we're doing, but they're not supporting it. But some of the issues have been raised But in addition to what we've been raised is we want to know what is the what we want to know about the guards. We want a more in-depth screening process because some of them have suspect tattoos and body markings that may be actually hate groups. I was in a court in Chester County with another friend of mine as a support to him, and I saw these constables come in, and they had this stuff all on their neck, and they had these suspect tattoos. Then these are constables. You know, these were like, you know, Rosie and my mom and all. These were like, you know, gang tattoos, biker, you know, tattoos. And so we're looking for a more in-depth screening process because they know there's a database that tells you what every tattoo, you know, means and what its roots are. We're looking for a more in-depth psychological screening and more diversity training. You know, bring on some of us that are pillars in the community, that are from the community, that can be consultants to help these individuals understand the populations that they're going to be dealing with, and let's weed out some of the ones that may be predisposed to have some of these views, misgivings towards other people from other persuasions or other backgrounds. In addition to that, we stated on our flyer that we sent out about we were concerned about access. The catalyst for me was I went there as an ordained clergy person, as I've done for 35 years, visiting, working in prison ministry, to see some individuals from our ministry and some that we just ministered to outside of ministry. And I was told on 3 different occasions that I was not on the list. And they knew I was clergy. They've seen me before. I've been in there before. But it was just that whole act, that whole sadistic thing of denying you the right to visit someone who is in distress. And they know who you are. That the third time it happened, I said, "This is it." You know, it's like Popeye. You know, this is it. So that was the catalyst for me. That and then listening to people like January, Eric, all the other ones that I met, and another young lady who was transferred to another facility, and hearing the stories and reading in the paper and doing the research online, talking to people like Judith and other people, I said, you know, we got to do something, pull ourselves up by the grassroots, because this is what affects change. And I'll let you guys know, since that November 5th, we did it on Election Day, so why would you go out there? And I said to the reporter, I said, we're doing this on Election Day because the people behind that wall are not considered really a part of any constituency, political constituency, whether you're liberal or Democrat or moderate, because they don't have the juice. They're not a part of their voting base. I said, but I have a duty to serve the least of these. I have a duty to visit those that are in prison, because I read that somewhere. Okay? All right, I read that somewhere. Okay, so that I take that as not just words on a page, but that's a part of my duty. So when I was denied that visit, that meant that they were denying me the exercise of my rights, but also they were denying the human rights and the dignity of this individual who was behind that wall. And I said, something's got to happen. So what has happened since November 5th to the 22nd, CEC, which is the parent company, the management company, we contacted the community relations or with public relations guy in January, public relations, Chris Greeter. And Chris, we said, Chris, you're going to send somebody here to be with us on Friday? I said, we'll take good care of you. Well, Pastor, I'll have to get back to you. Okay, Chris calls me back. Pastor, I don't think we can send anybody, but can you and one other person come and meet with us next week? I wanted you to meet with the warden, not Mr. Riley, but our employee. Because Mr. Riley's relationship, he is the contract manager, the supervisor, superintendent, who actually is over the contract that Delaware County has. It's a nice little cushy job if you can get it. But he said, you'll be meeting with our warden, and then we'd like you to discuss it. We want to bring you in, and we want to start seeing how we can work this out. But I said, he said, but please tell the media to come. I said, well, what did you expect to happen when we showed up with, this is a distinguished Vietnam veteran. I'm a post-Vietnam veteran. I'm a minister. Judith is a she's a real threat to security. You can see, you can look at her and tell. She's a real threat. We show up. They got 20 officers, 9mm tasers, K9s, and pot bellies. Yeah, don't leave out the pot bellies, right? Because you can't leave out the pot bellies. And then they got the park police out there. What I mean, it reminded me of something in the '60s. It reminded me of that kind of overkill, that kind of visceral.
Yeah.
We're gonna beat you down, and we get turned away.
Did
And
they tell
what
you
did they
that-
think was going to happen?
Was there something illegal that you were doing, or illegal?
Oh no! Well, they said we couldn't be on this property. They said it was prison property. They didn't even say we didn't have a permit. Now in the newspaper, in the obituary for the officer, unfortunately that passed, they said that the officer was dispatched, the county officer. He was dispatched to break up a protest that was protesting illegally without a permit.
What?
That's what his eulogy said.
What happened? He had a heart attack or something?
He had a heart attack. He had a heart attack after we said he went to a restaurant and had a heart attack and passed.
The pictures alone were intimidating. The
Yeah.
pictures that you showed me of all
Yeah.
the guards standing.
Yeah, and so we sent the pictures to the media and we told our story. But this is the power that we have. You guys, you know, we have this power. We get so caught up sometimes on elected power, but the power has always been in the people to be the consciousness and to be the driving force. And that's what it's exciting me. Daggone it, I'm excited. Because when you can take a large corporation like CEC to the point where they're almost, this guy was like stuttering, he was like teetering on the phone with us. And Jerry was listening, just like this guy, and this guy probably is used to being, cold and hard-nosed, but they don't know what to do now because they created this storm. All they had to do was let us have a simple protest, then start a dialogue. That would have been a simple story. But when you show up with this excessive force, as if we're going to it's just such a dismissive place. Delaware County, they dismiss you as a non-entity, as if you're less than a human being.
used to.
Just like a fly.
My only regret for that day is that I didn't get out of the car and give them all kindness cards.
Right. That would have been
The
a photo.
in-kind
That would have been
contribution.
awesome. Yeah.
I wish I would have been treated with a third of the respect he's given me on trying to get a hold of the pastor when I was in there. Now he talks to me like I'm a queen. Oh, Henry, thanks for all your help. Yes, Lord.
So,
I would like to just briefly, as a movement elder, if you will, just talk about change in Delaware County that I have observed in my lifetime. I came to Delaware County in 1960 with 2 little guys and a new baby looking for an apartment, and the traffic was terrible, and I didn't know why. And then we came upon this huge, hundreds and hundreds of people, and there was a guy sitting up on the back seat of a convertible, campaigning, John F. Kennedy. Ironic, today, of course, is the anniversary. I got involved with the women's movement. I want to show you how this all works. I'm sure most of you know this already. I happened to be in Atlantic City in 1960, whatever, and it was the first time in my life I'd ever been by myself. And I was getting ready to paint, and I had a blank canvas that I put up on an easel. And I went to stroll the boards, and there were people in evening gowns, and it was the Miss America weekend. Well, lo and behold, there was a gathering of women making speeches. And in those days, women did not make speeches, so it was like, And they had a big oil drum, and they were throwing into this drum high heels and girdles and bras. And we used to straighten our hair with frozen orange juice cans, and it was like an aha moment. And I looked around the crowd, and the women were all like, and men were all like, and all the reporters there from around the country were all men, because in those days the women were, the recipe people. And I got so fired up, I came back to Delaware County. I want to start a consciousness raising group. Women were afraid of the word power. They said, oh, if we gather like that, they'll think we're lesbians. And the whole word power was just too scary. So I waited about 6 months, and there was enough in the media that people were beginning to say, well, maybe there's something to this. The next day, when I saw this demonstration, I bought every newspaper I could find, because they were there from all over the country. And every one of them said women had burned their bras. And it never happened. Never. Because you couldn't have a fire on the boardwalk. But somehow